So what we do is consulting and installation of sustainable landscapes. Sustainable landscapes being ones that require very little, if any, resource input. So no chemicals, no potable water, and also the use of native plants that support habitat. There are a number of reasons why this is important. In order for birds and other wildlife to survive, they need insects. And insects can only eat native plants because of this long 10,000-year coevolutionary history. Non-native plants, being from another continent, have defense mechanisms that the native insects have not had enough evolutionary time to overcome. The model in the suburbs and most places that are developed is we landscape mostly with non-native species. And part of the reason for that is that there are moneyed interests in promoting what they're selling. And what they're talking about is, here are these beautiful plants and you can have a beautiful yard. And there is in our culture this norm of what a beautiful yard looks like. Sustainable landscaping is relatively new. It's starting to catch on, and people are starting to figure out, gee, I can have something that's beautiful and put in a lot less work into it, because landscaping with native plants requires far less work than using non-native species. One of the big misconceptions is that native plants are weedy. You can landscape in the same way with native plants as you can with non-native plants. You can have organized native perennial beds. The other misconception is there aren't many native species. I have a database and I have 350 to 400 different species of plants in there for all different kinds of conditions, whether your soil is clay, whether it's sand, whether you have sun, part shade, full shade, whether it's wet, whether it's dry, and all combinations thereof, in flowers, in bushes, and in trees. This is a fairly typical subdivision here in the suburbs. What we're going to do is just pick out 2 random houses and point out some of the unsustainable practices. This is a typical house landscaped in the suburbs, and there's lawn, for example. And the way many of these houses were built was the developer came in and stripped all the topsoil off, carted it away because they could sell it, and then their equipment and the soil here, the undersoil here happens to be clay, and then you take all the construction equipment, just compacted it down, it's as hard as concrete, and then they come and put an inch of topsoil down and then roll out the sod. And so the sod here is really just sitting on an inch of topsoil. The grass is already starting to show some signs of stress. It requires a lot of water. There are some bushes along the walkway there that are burning bushes, and burning bushes are a very popular kind of bush to put in a house. The only problem with them is that they're moderately invasive, and so we're starting to see them invade woodlands. So this is a magnolia tree, and a tree that's native to several hundred miles, a few hundred miles south of here, is not going to be adapted to these conditions. And so we had this freeze, and you can see the flowers have been killed, and many of the leaves have been killed too. On the most wanted list is bush honeysuckle. Bush honeysuckle's also from Asia, and you can go to the store and buy it. It's nice size and shape, and it's pest-free. Anytime somebody says something that's pest-free is a warning sign. There are just thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours of volunteer efforts and money spent by local and state governments and the federal government too, to eradicate honeysuckle from woodlands. So all the houses in this neighborhood are landscaped like the one I just showed you, and so it just begs the question, where's the habitat value? And there really is no habitat value. You could put bushes that are just as easy, native bushes are just as easy to maintain as non-native bushes and provide habitat. And if they need some lawn area, they could put in a buffalo grass lawn and either not mow it, or for people who like a little more manicured, mow it maybe once a month in the growing season. So one of the things is to get rid of as much lawn as possible. Now, what a rain garden is it's really just a depression in the ground that is meant to capture water. And so this rain garden is sized to capture the first inch of rain that falls. To most people, it's just going to look like a flower bed. There was a very big burning bush over here, and I said that it is an invasive species. So what I've planted here is roundleaf dogwood. The botanical name for this species is Pycnanthemum incanum. It's in the mint family, very strong. If the wind were blowing from me to you, you'd be able to smell it. Wild bergamot is a native species, Monarda fistulosa. 4 leaves of these in a cup of hot boiling water makes a nice tea that's also high in vitamin C. There are a couple maintenance strategies with native plants, particularly herbaceous and grass species. You can do what is traditionally done, and that is to cut them down. The other one is prescribed burning. This yard is landscaped completely with native plants, plants native to the Midwest. And in the front, the goal was to landscape using making it look traditional. So there's a lawn, but it's a buffalo grass lawn, and native perennial beds, and in the lawn extension here, some short prairie grasses. So what we're doing today is burning them, because burning was a very common occurrence, and these plants are adapted to fire. And so what we'll do is we'll return the nutrients to the soil, we'll burn off the plant material so it gets more solar radiation, so it'll start growing earlier.
I bought this house a year ago, and I liked the landscaping, and I liked the sustainability that Drew has kind of created here. It's pretty cool. I mean, when I bought the house, Drew was like, and we'll burn it in the spring. And at first I was like, what? That seems crazy, and then we got excited about it.
Anybody who burns should really know what they're doing. There certainly are inherent risks with that. The risks are not as great as they're made out to be. You're not going to burn down a neighborhood. Smoke is a concern, certainly, and so you need to burn on the right conditions. Somebody who has a native landscape that they want to burn can certainly contact me to do that. Whenever something dies, replace it with a native plant. And from time to time, things die. Flowers die, bushes die. And so that would be a very easy way to start.
So I love it. It's great. And, in the summer, beautiful flowers, beautiful grasses. I like the buffalo grass because I mowed it like twice last year and didn't water it once.
The web address is creatingsustainablelandscapes.com. So you only need to type it once, then bookmark it. And then we also have a Facebook page, so facebook.com/creatingsustainablelandscapes. At some point, people wanted something a little bit different, and so we have these species. But the different species now are the native species. And so if you want something different that's a little bit unusual looking, sometimes then the native species fits the bill.